Well, hello, friends, neighbors. John, your whiskey neighbor here, and welcome out the deck. Beautiful, beautiful day. So I thought I have to shoot outside just so I can relax and enjoy the experience a bit more. And I'm still shooting some sherried Scotch. I know I started that a while ago, but I have a few more bottles that are open that I want to share with you and then maybe finish off to make room for some new expressions. Today I want to talk to you about Edradour. Edradour, I think if you do a little searching, I know it came up in a few books that I've read, is certainly known for its very small size in the Highlands there. And also, I think it's known, at least when I talk to people about Edradour, they talk a lot about its ex-sherry and its casking. So this is really their entrance. This is Edradour 10-year-old Highland Scotch. If you have a little bit of Edradour, it'd be great. If you don't, any Highland sherry influenced Scotch, why don't you pour it around? When we come back, we'll talk about Edradour 10 Single Malt Scotch. 3, 4. Well, thanks for staying with me through the opener there. As I was saying, I don't know enough about it. When you search or the few pages in a whiskey book you might see, you'll see pretty quick the small size that it is still. And it says, handmade in the pocket glen. They're very proud that they continue to make excellent single malt, but at a very small scale. Certainly, like if you go to Wikipedia, it says that it was traditionally made by 3 people and now only 2. I have a hard time understanding that they're doing and sending whiskey across the world with only a couple of people, but could be right. Either way, it is certainly very small, so batches are smaller. I know they use local grains. They're very proud of that, and they're also very proud of their natural color. Out here, it's tough to really see the color, but I hope you can get a sense that it is really dark, which is lovely. One of the things you might have noticed, during the bottle pan there is that it is only released at 40%. Possibly because 40%, and they don't want, clouding to occur. It is chill filtered. So, a lot of whiskey nerds like me, we're looking for usually a little stronger. We like natural color, non-chill filtration. So probably around 46% is kind of when we are like, okay, now we're interested. This is only 40%, but it is natural color, and it's really nice and dark. Let's see what the whiskey itself says when we nose and taste it. I don't know whether it's warmed up in the sun or it's just a nice still moment, but that nose is quite nice. It is rich. It is definitely sherried. I will say, with that color like that, if you just stopped me in the street and said, "Oh, is it ex-sherry?" Which it's got to be all ex-sherry. But when I was on their website, it said, ex-Oloroso, but it did also say ex-bourbon. But the notes for me that are coming up, it's almost a little bit of red wine influence. It's got some nice dark, red fruit or grape, a little bit of berry. Yeah, and actually even more raspberry can kind of come up. And when I say now moving into raspberry, now it becomes a little bit tart on the nose for me. It shifts that way. It started a little more open, a little more floral, and now it shifted into something a little bit more tart. Still nice. Now let's get into it. Sláinte. It's a very pleasant single malt. It's fairly gentle in the palate, a little bit of malt sugars, but very quickly again, some nice dark raisin, sultana, thick spices. Not spicy, but that Christmas cake spices start to come up, whether that's from the casking or whatnot. It definitely starts to be part of the conversation. Having a little sip. It's just really nice. Definitely significant sherry influence. If I was hunting around for some ex-bourbon influence, there's a little bit of vanilla, and there is a honeyed sweetness to it. That may be coming more from an ex-bourbon barrel. Hard for me, really, in this moment to tell if that's essential to the distillate or whether that is some ex-bourbon influence. But there is a bit of honeyed sugars in there. But mostly for me, malts, red fruits, gentle spices, even a really light dusting of chocolate. It's not a chocolate bomb, and I don't think if you traditionally struggle to get chocolate out of whiskey, I don't think you're going to get it here. But I've been getting it a bit out of some of the sherries I've been having, and I definitely get it here. This is a lovely Scotch. It really is. And the finish is decent. It's not, forever, and it doesn't come back hugging and oaking and bitter. But it's nice. You're left with, for me anyways, I'm left with just a pleasant, kind of back into a multi-gram cracker, nice, just relaxed expression. My struggle with this is, it's 40%, it's chill filtered, and you pay a fair amount for it. Now, I started by saying how very small this is. Regardless of whether there's 3 or 10 people working there, it's really quite a small place. I've certainly looked it up on maps, and as I said in the readings. And so it's very impressive that such a small group of people can put out some excellent world-class Scotch. And perhaps because of that small nature, you don't have efficiencies of scale, we need to pay a little more for it. If I push money aside, this is probably one of the best 10-year-old 40% ex-sherry drams I've had. So it's under 4 stars though. There's a couple of knocks on it for me, but it's beautiful. I really like it. So maybe I better put it at 4 stars. With the price, I know it's going to be tough for me to rebuy because it's good, but it's not mind-blowing, and it does carry a pretty heavy price. Okay, as I said, I wanted to compare it with another sherried Scotch, and I don't have an ex-sherried single malt that I've already talked to you about. I like to do that as the second comparison. So I have this one. This is Naked Grouse, and certainly, this group is large, and they put out a lot of whiskey, the Edrington group, and it's not fair comparison in that way. Plus, this is a blended malt, which means it comes from a variety of distilleries, but it's still all malt, so it's just barley. And this one is just sherried influenced. I believe it's a mix of first and second fill casking. Released at 43, so it's a bit stronger. Why I wanted to compare it here, aside from that I didn't really have a good alignment with an opened, talked about single malt, is that it is half the price as the Edradour. So if I look at this comparison, what are we getting for moving up to something that is clearly a higher quality Scotch, but what about for flavor? Oh, shoot. It's pretty similar on the nose. I've got some nice sherry influence, a bit of red berry. Is it a bit sharper? I'm just going to try a direct comparison. Oh, this is a bit richer. It draws me in. There's a couple of extra layers going on in here. In this case, it wasn't that it was deeper fruits, but there was some other, almost some oaks in there that I wasn't getting in the Naked Grouse. But this, clearly a Scotch, a malt, and sherry influence. Let's try it on the palate. Sludge it. Okay, so that is a little, it is a little more youthful. I know 10 years is very youthful as well, and there's probably 10 and older in here in this blend, but I am getting a little more tannins, a little more bite. Could have been the way I swallowed that one, so I'm going to give it a moment and then come back to it. But the richness of flavor is certainly more present in the Edradour, so I'll easily move that to a 4-star because this pushes about a 3.5 to 3 3/4 for me. Now I'll take a little another sip. I'm going to say the same thing. I like this. There are good ex-sherried flavors in there. There's an okay amount of malt. The depth isn't there. The finish is shorter. And there's a little more, like, I don't know if I said it was tannic. It's almost on that edge of tannic bitter. It's not overly bitter. I like the Naked Grouse. I find it very drinkable. I enjoy it. But there's a an alcohol presence in my mouth, and it's not because it's 43 versus 40. Those are far too close to really overemphasize the alcohol difference, at least for my palate. The Edradour in this sitting is higher quality, is a nicer dram, and I definitely enjoy it more. But when it comes down to it, if you're just looking for, you're early in your journey and you're like, well, what would a sherried Scotch taste like if you've kind of been doing mostly ex-bourbon or just some really big brands? This Naked Grouse is worth a try. And if you like what's going on there, Edradour would be a step up, even though it is still filtered in 40%. Look, thanks for joining me out here on the deck. It's actually become a little bit warm, so I think I might relax with what's left of these instead of being outside, although it's perfect to be outside. Might find a bit more shade and relax. Hope you guys have had a great Saturday. Maybe got a few things done, and that the work week coming up is just great. You guys take care.